Okay, welcome back. My name is Fritz, and this is our sixth video in the My First Scene in Unreal Engine. And what I'm going to show you today is how to give a realistic light flicker to a candle. I have this scene set up right here. It's the same place we left off from our last video where we adjusted our lighting to give us some realistic looking shadows and darkness in the areas where we should have it. And I have this candle right down here that's in the scene that already has an emissive material added to it, as we talked about in the last video. And what I want to do is now give it some light effects, because if I hit play, and here's my character, we have that sort of a glow there, and that's about it. Not a lot of light being given off by it. And it's kind of hard to see if there's any actual light at all. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. What we're going to do is down here in our content, so I'm going to go to top level here, content, create a folder that, so right click, go to new folder, and when that pops up, give it the name actor BP, so actor blueprint. And this is where we're going to put any of our actors that have blueprints on them. And once that's done, double click and open it and come into the folder. It should be empty. And then once you're inside of here, right click, and we're going to select a blueprint class. And that window will pop up right here. And we want to select the top one that says actor. As you can see, we have a lot of other choices in here. They kind of give a description of what they are, but we're going to start with this one. And basically, it's an object that can be placed or spawned in the world. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to have an object that we want to place in our world. So select the top one that says actor, and this will pop up, and I am going to call this my candle, and then BP for blueprint. And I'm going to hit enter. And this is what gets created, this little kind of a bluish color down here at the bottom, and a little round white orb until we change it by adding an actual static mesh to it. So double click on it. So double click, and when you do that, this will pop up right here. And there's that little orb that we saw. And right here we have basically where we can add components. It gives a breakdown of what is inside of our blueprint. Here in the viewport, we have our main viewport. We have a construction script if we have scripting that we're going to put into it. And then an event graph. And this is what we're going to kind of play around with. First, we're going to go back to our viewport. And over here we have some details that we really haven't gotten much into right now. And we're not going to really talk much about these because we're going to actually bring in some other objects that are going to allow us to make some changes to them. So I'm going to click this down, bring it down a little bit. And what I want to do is go back to my content. Right here I'm going to type in candle. And if you downloaded the Grasslands and the Firelands from the Infinity Blade sets, you should have a candle that'll pop in. And right here, this is my static mesh. So SM for static mesh. Okay, it's in the Forge, so that's the Firelands, and it's a part of the map table. It says candles. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, drag and drop it right in here where it says my add components. So my little hand in there, drop it, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to change it to candles, because there's more than one. And when I do that, you can see that the three candles now are in the center of my scene here. And by using my middle mouse button, I can push down on it. I can zoom around in it. Use both by left and right mouse button. It also allows me to pan up and down and around. Left mouse button, I can zoom in and zoom out very slowly. And I can pan around it or circle around it using my right mouse button. We have three candles. There are some wicks with an image on it that looks like a candle light coming off of it. What we want to do is we actually want to give it a little bit more detail than that. So back over here in our components section, right here where it says add component, hit the little down arrow. And what we want to do is we want to select a point light. And when we do that, the point light pops in the middle, and we can see that we have this radius that's around it, so a sphere, and that sphere represents the attenuation radius for this light. we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull that up out of the center, and I'm going to drag and put it right in the center of this tallest candle first. And you might have to zoom around a little bit, get the right angles for it. And again, if it helps any, you can come up here, change to your top view, and zoom down a little bit. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to show us the candle very well. So, scratch that one. We're going to go back to perspective and just kind of play around with it in perspective until I get it the way I want to see it. Right on the top there. And I'll put it right in the center of the wax. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble. You can use your Alt and left mouse button. Gives you a little bit more control. So again, Alt, left mouse button, and then I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Kind of get this candle exactly where I want it. It helps to actually select the light. All right, so that's pretty close. That's kind of where I want it right there. All right, so now some of the things we might notice is that this is very bright, and we don't want it to be that bright. Okay. All right. Stop fiddling with it here and go ahead and just do what I'm trying to do. So over here, under the details, where it says light, we can see that the intensity is set at 5,000. Now I played around a little bit inside my scene. 100. So this is measured in energy. Total energy that the light emits is not measured in candles for this one. So since it would be easier, it's one candle, we put 1 in there. But I'm going to use the number 100 and put that in for my total energy. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is go back in so I can kind of see where my light is just a little bit. All right. Stop. There we go. Hold the Alt button down, right mouse button. Allows you to zoom in kind of slow. So now I can kind of see that it's reduced the lighting a little bit. And then the other thing I want to do is adjust my attenuation radius. Right now it goes out 1,000. I want to change that down to about half that. So I'm going to click in here and type that 500 for that. And those are my initial settings that I'm going to use for that. And I'm also going to change the color. I'm going to click on that little white right there and the little white line and click on the center of the color here and move it down towards the orange until I get it sort of an orange hue that I like down in here. Give off kind of an orangey light. Maybe darker than that. Let's see here, something. Okay, something like that. And you can copy these numbers down here. If I move my head out of the way, you can see they're the RGB settings here, or the HSV, either one. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now I've got a little bit more of an orange glow coming out of my light. Now I want to take that light, and because I want this effect to happen on all 3 candles, what I'm going to do is click on my point light and hit Control W. Holding Alt and moving it in the scene does not work in here. So once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and now grab that other light bulb I just created, the point light, move things around a little bit, move my light over, rotate around, drop it down so I get it down inside my candle. All right. There we go. Something like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the next one. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control W. That's for duplicate. Grab that off of here and put it on the other candle. All right, so close enough. I think we're good there. And we've got the same settings for all 3 because we duplicated the first light that we set up. So the next thing we want to do now is we want to go ahead and go into the event graph here. We're going to click on that. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the event begin play. I'm going to slide that up a little bit. Now to move around in here, right mouse button grips it, and then you can left mouse click on something and drag it around and zoom in and zoom out to make the scene bigger or smaller. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull it off to the side here. The first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and a couple different ways we can get to these different nodes. If you right click, that brings up this menu. You can also click on the node output that you want to use and drag it. And once you let go of the left mouse button, this will pop up. And the first thing we want is sequence, okay? Because we're going to add several of these into this particular scene. So I'm going to go ahead and type in sequence. And we may have to scroll up until we find the exact one we're looking for. Let's see here. Oh, right here, sequence. That's the one we want. It's highlighted the whole time. Okay, now what this has done is this is going to allow us to have an event begin, and then we're going to have several things come off it at the same time. Because we're using 3 different point lights, we need to have a sequence set up so that we can then control each one of those. They're all going to have the same flicker, and we could have taken these point lights and applied them all to the same target input, but then they would have flickered at the exact same time, and that would have been a little bit less realistic looking. All right, so once we have that sequence, we're going to go ahead and start here at the top one, and we're going to left mouse click, drag, and we're going to type in delay. And what we want is just the regular delay. And this has a default duration built into it, but what we want to do is we want to add a little bit of randomness to this. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on that little green input, drag out again, and drop. And what we want to go ahead is get a random float, okay? Random float in range. And that's the one we want, and that's going to give us the ability to set a min and a max, okay? For the min, we're going to leave that at 0. And for the max, I'm going to go ahead and put that at 0.5. So that gives us the ability to have a random delay set in between 0 and 0.5. And once we have that, the next thing we want to do is we want to click and drag from completed. And we drag that out, and we want to select set intensity. So set, and then int, type it all as one word. And the reason we want to do this is we want to have it for our point light, and we can't have this until you have a point light actually selected here, add component. Set intensity won't pop in until you have that set into there. So now I'm going to go ahead and just kind of clean things up a little bit. Kind of make this a little smaller so that it's more compact in here because we're going to have a few of these things set up. All right, so from here we can also, as you see, have a new intensity set into it. It's set at 0, 0 right here. This is where we want to have another random float in range. And we're going to set this. So our max that we set our intensity was at 100 for our light. And I've kind of played around with the numbers. 50 to 100 give us a little bit more of a kind of a realistic look. And I'm going to go ahead and just type that in there. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to have this repeat. So we're going to come back here, we're going to grab this, and we're going to go and plug it back in at the very beginning of our delay. So this will repeat the process over and over again, okay? Now, what we want to do is do this again. But instead of having to come in and type it all in, I'm going to select it all, hit Control-C, click down here, and select Control-V. And I'm going to kind of adjust everything, clean it up a little bit. Select this point light right here, and I'm going to delete that original point light. I'm going to come over here into our components, click on light, point light 1, because that's our next light. I'm going to drop it in here, take the little control output and put it into our input for the target. Now we've got this set up for our second light, but what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and select then. And this is going to come down here into our input for our delay. Okay. Now we've got this one set up. We need to add another pin because this only has 2 when it's default. So hit add pin. I'm going to come down here. Since we'd already Control copy once, I'm going to click down here and hit Control C again. Control V rather, and I messed up. That's all right. We'll just go ahead and copy it again, and Control V, move everything, kind of line it up. Do the same thing with our point light selected, delete it, click and drag point light number 2 in, get that in here, put it as our input for our target, and now we're going to go ahead and grab the output and put it here into our delay. And we've got all 3 of these set up. I'm going to go ahead and hit compile, and it should not give you any errors. I'm going to hit save while I'm at it. Now we've got a blueprint right here set up, so we'll see where I have candle typed in here. But let's go ahead and go back to our content. I'm going to hit X, cancel that out. Back in our content, I'm going to go to Actor BP for blueprint. And right here is our candle that we just set up. I'm going to click and drag that into the scene. Get it set up. Click on this first one. And you can see that this one is giving off light, whereas that other one is not. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Take a look at our scene, kind of see how that looks. Okay, not too bad. It looks like we got a little bit of a flicker. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play. And here's my character. I'm going to walk over to the table, spin around a little bit, and you can see that it is flickering. All the lights have a little bit of light and flicker going on. They're not all at the same time, so we've got a variation in our flicker, which is exactly what we want. And now I'm going to hit escape for a second. I'm going to bring back in this window so you can kind of see what's happening. When I hit play, you can see that all of these now have an animation, and we have this occurring all at the same time. And by adding the sequence, it allows us to have multiple events happen at the same time as event play. And that is pretty much how you can set up a candle. And then once you have it in your scene, you can come in here and now just do the same thing with anything else. You can hold Alt and move it and make duplicates of the same thing over and over again. Put as many in as you need to. All right, so that's it for making a realistic looking candle. The next video will deal with making a torch using fire instead of wax candles, and using the delay process similar to what we just did to create our flicker in our torches. So tune in next time for that one. Thanks for watching this one. If you liked what you saw, please hit like down below and also subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much and have a great day.